Hello everyone, I'm Sanjeev Kumar at Plutus IAS. I bring another topic that is weed science. Here we will discuss about the weed. What does mean by weed? How to identify weed? What are different characteristics, features and their management? Whether weeds are useful or they generally cause damage or loss to the farmers. So what are technically weed? We will go through and associated matter with the weed. So let's move with the weed. What does mean by weed? Weed क्या है? Weed को generally हिंदी में खरपतवार कहा जाता है. So ये weed क्या है? How we can identify whether it is a crop plant या whether it is a weed? Look, if you are noticing in a field that particular plant is growing other than the main crop, it will be considered as weed. Weed means any unwanted या undesired plant. This unwanted or undesired plant generally growing at wrong place. या तो ये रॉन्ग प्लेस पर ग्रो कर रहा है और इट इज ग्रोइंग एट रॉन्ग टाइम. वेदर it is growing at wrong place or wrong time, both will be considered as the weed. Now, suppose that there is a field, 1 acre field. The main crop here is wheat. Now, inside wheat, there is a Chenopodium album. Suppose that bathua, although it is rich in vitamins, minerals, iron, it is very healthy for your consumption, but it is technically a weed because our desired crop is wheat, and this bathua, Chenopodium album, is growing on its own. Further, suppose that you have grown here wheat. Now, along with wheat, there are certain plants of mustard. Because wheat is rabi crop, mustard is also rabi crop. In such condition, suppose that farmer would have sown this mustard 2 years before. Now, there is growth of wheat. Means farmer has sown deliberately, the desired crop is wheat. But unfortunately, this mustard plant is growing. ये mustard plant जो है वो germinate हो गया है. Means seed likely to be remain in dormant stage for 2 years. और जब 2 साल के बाद favorable condition आई, जब farmer ने prepare किया उसका land for cultivation of wheat, so along with wheat there is also mustard plant. So mustard plant will be considered as a weed. Further, suppose that there is another adjacent plant. Now in adjacent plant, there are certain crop plants. A farmer has sown here gram. Now suppose that during broadcasting, because it is adjacent, yeah, by any insect, bird, any animal, yeah, by wind action, by water action, some of the seeds move to this region, and here there is growth of this gram plant. It will be considered as weed. तो ये भी weed होगा. So weed is any plant which is other than the main crop, which is other than the desired crop, which is growing at wrong place at wrong time. I hope now weed is clear to you. Hope this weed आपको clear हो गया. Look, this monsoon annual weed. Now moving towards characteristic. In characteristic of the weed, we can determine annual, biannual or perennial weeds. In annual, generally either monsoonal weed or winter weed. We generally consider monsoon annual weed means the time period of the weed, yeah, life cycle of the weed plant will be less than 1 year, yeah, maybe 1 season, around 3 to 4 months. So monsoon annual weed, Commelina bengalensis, This Commelina bengalensis is highly helpful in various kind of stomach related diseases. Although it is a weed which used to grow around the roadside, used to grow in open land areas, unoccupied areas, yeah, around certain drains, etc. So this is what? Commelina bengalensis is a weed. Maybe grow inside your field, maybe grow other places. It is where not desired. A farmer willfully, for medicine purpose, growing bengalensis commelina, yeah, Commelina bengalensis, then it is not a weed. That is desired plant. Now look at this another weed, Borohevia erecta. Now Borohevia erecta, this is highly helpful in any kind of urinary in functioning, या कह सकते हो कि आप यूरिन से रिलेटेड कुछ भी आपको प्रॉब्लम है, उस केस में it is highly helpful. It is also medicinal plant, but technically it is a weed used to grow in multiple crops. ठीक है, मानसून टाइम पर it started to grow around wetland areas, या maybe inside your crop field, over the bund, या along the roadside. It grew naturally. Commonly found at various places in India. बहुत जगह पर मिलता है, very frequent है, common है. Now, Chanopodium album. This is your Bathua. This Bathua, Chanopodium album, is your winter weed. Means winter में generally inside wheat field, this Chanopodium album is very frequent, very common, and its, seed, spike, all these consist of more than 70,000 seeds. Means one plant may produce more than 70,000 seeds. That's why it is difficult to remove it. Weeding के साथ है, generally it is very difficult to remove, although it is winter time, so may not be perennial, may not be problem permanent basis, highly active in some of the crop, may not be active in other crop, but rich in vitamins, minerals, yeah, iron. Now, moving towards certain perennial weeds, this is another picture of Bathua. Now, biennial weeds. Biennial weeds, such weeds generally grow either through seeds or there is vegetative propagation. What happens in biennial seed? Here जो plant की life है, plant की यहाँ पर life होगी, वो 2 year या 1 year plus होगा, either 2 year or 1 year plus. Plant likely to be remain alive up to 2 years. Now, in first year, there will be growth of leaves, stems, root. There will be, this is first year. There is no reproductive part of the plant likely to be grow in first year. मतलब ना तो flower grow होगा, ना seed grow होगा. So, in biennial weed, generally in very first year, there is growth of leaves, stems, branches, twigs, yeah, roots. Look at Docus carota, yeah, wild carrot. This is biennial weed. So during first year, there is growth of root, there is growth of stem. Second year में there is growth of flower, seed. So this is biennial. Now, if you want to remove this carrot, wild carrot, then you need to cut it, you need to remove it from the field in very first year. If you leave it for second year, it may create problem because lot of seeds likely to be fall over the ground and it may become perennial. It may continue for very long time period. It is quite difficult to eradicate, to remove it. In first year, there is no such growth. Now, look at perennial plants. Perennial weeds means यहाँ पर जो प्लांट की लाइफ होगी लाइकली टू बी ग्रेटर देन 2 years, 2 साल से ज़्यादा होगा. जंगली चौलाई, अमरांथस स्पिनोसस cholai, generally during fast time period when we roast this cholai and mix with some jaggery product etc., we manufacture laddu. It is highly nutritious, helpful for your health, but this is generally more than 2 years. Further, it create difficulty in removing. Now, echinocloa या barnyard grasses. Look at barnyard grasses grow in open land areas, around the wetland, around unoccupied areas, factory land, inside your field, over the grazing ground. It likely to be grow on its own. ठीक है? So it is perennial weed. Barnyard grasses. It is also weed inside your paddy field. Now, moving to another characteristic, how weed propagated. Weed इतना ज़्यादा problem क्यों है? There are weedicides या herbicides. When we plan generally to remove all kind of plant, तो weedicide का use किया जाता है. When we want to remove only desired weed from away from the field, तो उसके लिए herbicide use किया जाता है. जैसे herbicide will be used for Chenopodium album या बथुआ के लिए. If you want to remove बथुआ, not wheat plant inside your field. Okay. So वेजिटेटिव प्रोपागेशन, देखो एक सेक्सुअल प्रोपागेशन होता है और एक एसेक्सुअल प्रोपागेशन होता है. जो सेक्सुअल प्रोपागेशन होता है दैट इज थ्रू योर सीड, ये सीड के थ्रू प्रोपागेट होता है. जो एसेक्सुअल प्रोपागेशन होता है दैट इज थ्रू वेजिटेटिव पार्ट. मीन्स जनरली अ कॉमन पर्सन थॉट that most of the plant grow only or mainly with the seed, but it is not true. Rather, in horticulture, asexual propagation, vegetative propagation is highly dominant. Further, to remove the weed, you understand the nature of weed growth, to understand the perennial problem of weed, इसको जानने के लिए understand what is the mechanism behind the growth. Now, suppose that nut grass, आप हमेशा कट करते रहोगे और नीचे से जनरेट होता रहेगा. आपको लगेगा कि आपने प्लांट कट कर दिया है, बट टेक्निकली नट या अंडरग्राउंड स्टेम इज रेस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर इट्स ग्रोथ. सिमिलरली कैनेडा थिस्टले, सो इट लाइकली टू बी ग्रो विद द रूट्स. इन सच कंडीशन व्हाट विल हैपन, वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज द वे ऑफ प्रोपागेशन. बार्नयार्ड ग्रासेस, बर्मुडा ग्रासेस, जनरली आपके स्टेम्स से हॉरिजॉन्टल स्टेम्स that is responsible. ठीक है, we called it stolon. This stolon likely to be run just parallel above the ground, and wherever you have the birds, it touch the ground, soil cover करेगी इसे moist soil, and it will generate its separate plant. पूरी तरह से एक separate plant होगा. फिर उसमें एक horizontal stem grow होगा. Then there might be certain buds here. Then these buds will attach with the ground and started to widespread. Okay, so new roots, nodes, etc. likely to be developed, we are produced well. It become very dense. It generally occupied entire surrounding regions because of movement of stolons. That's why kali ghas is very difficult to remove. Barnyard grasses, generally very difficult to remove. Frequently, it is used for lawn because its density is excellent. When you cut it, when you chop it, you mow it, in such condition, it provides very touching, heart-touching finishing. It provides very high density. It removes soil erosion. It entirely covered ground with high density. So green cover, the layer of green cover looks like very pleasant. Frequently used inside the lawn, but technically most frequently it is a weed and perennial weed likely to be sustained forever for very long time period. Extremely difficult to remove it. Farmer need to cultivate या may opt for rotavator multiple times, especially during dry condition, during very arid condition. Then in such case, these stolons may be chopped into multiple portion and disintegrated, degraded, या may not able to germinate. ठीक है? तो rhizome या root stock, which are responsible here. Bermuda grass, Johnson grass is growing because of rhizome, because of horizontal stems that are moving parallel to the ground. Okay, now look at tubers या nuts. Sweet potato या cassava, potato या nut grass, all propagating through tuber या nuts. ट्यूबर या नट से ग्रो होता है. अब यहां से आप कट कर दोगे, फार्मर अगर इसको प्लांट को हमेशा कट करता रहे या फिर इवन विद सोवल एक खुरपी के साथ में सम ऑफ द नट्स या सम ऑफ द अपर प्लांट यहां से उसने रिमूव कर दिया. नाउ ही इज थिंकिंग दैट दिस nut grasses is no more. He has entirely cut the plant quite deep, but even if some of the nuts, some of the nodes here remain stable, lie inside the field, still in such condition, it will germinate. Because technically it store lot of food, energy, carbohydrates, and it is the main vegetative part, या कह सकते हो कि ये मेन पार्ट है जिससे इसकी ग्रोथ होती है. ओके, सो दीज नट्स हियर you can chop it into multiple pieces and multiple plants likely to be grow. Every bud here is a new offspring, is a new plant. तो कहीं भी potato जो है वो on its own grow करता है. Do you think that soil is necessary for growth of any plant? Technically it is not so. आप आलू को वैसे ही छोड़ देते हो, इसको क्या चाहिए? ह्यूमिडिटी चाहिए, स्पेसिफिक टेम्परेचर चाहिए, फूड एनर्जी इसके पास ऑलरेडी है, तो न्यू बर्ड स्टार्ट हो जाएगी. वंस बर्ड स्टार्टेड after flourishment of leaves, then it require energy, sunlight for photosynthesis. At this stage it does not require. Look at bulb, especially garlic या ginger, especially garlic या onion or garlic. Okay, they are bulb. Ginger is stem, underground stem, tuber. Okay, underground bulb-like structure store nutrient and sprout new plant. These bulb are responsible for growth of new plants. Wild onion, wild garlic generally grow frequently. Farmer chop it, cut it, but they are unable to remove the problem of weeds. शायद weed की problem नहीं remove होती है. अब क्यों नहीं होती है? Because bulb are providing vegetative growth. So you need to understand, farmer need to understand what is the nature. It is pervasive species dodder. Dodder. You have noticed it very frequently. This stem of dodder is used for vegetative propagation. आप इसको थोड़ा सा तोड़िए और किसी प्लांट पर फेंक दीजिए. Probably it consists of some of the birds या tissues which can attach with the plant leaf, with the plant stem, with the plant stem or branches या twigs, कहीं पर भी attach हो जाएगा. Now, what it consume from the plant? Plant से इसको क्या मिलेगा? Plant से इसको आपका जो भी इसकी requirement है, especially food requirement, so nutrients मिलेगा. It will suck most of the nutrients. It will suck water. It will consume energy. Okay, so all this complex network likely to be created. It grow very fast. It doesn't prepare its own food. Consume over host plant. Host plant का सारा nutrients, minerals, energy consume कर जाता है. So finally, malnutrition से या food की deficiency से जो host plant है उसकी death हो जाएगी. And suppose that it likely to be progress very well horizontally. अगर इससे कोई भी another plant touch है, it continue, and by the time plant, even a smaller part of plant will remain alive. It will remain alive. Once plant completely become dead, because it entirely covered the plant, तो plant यहाँ पर photosynthesis नहीं generate कर पाएगा. Photosynthesis अगर hurt हुआ, या plant जो भी energy food prepare कर रहा है या वाटर को मूव कर रहा है, अगर ये सारा वाटर फूड वगैरह कंज्यूम कर जाएगा, प्लांट डेफिनेटली विल फेस डिफिशियंसी ऑफ एसेंशियल न्यूट्रिएंट, एसेंशियल मिनरल्स. सो फाइनली देयर इज डेथ. इट इज फॉरेन या एक्सोटिक स्पीसीज नॉट नेटिव टू इंडिया एंड क्रिएटिंग लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम इन लॉट ऑफ एरियाज. नाउ Canada thistle. Canada thistle, it is also very strong weed. This Canada thistle, also foreign species, have introduced inside India, creating lot of problem in lot of field and lot of vegetation. Maybe wheat, maybe sugarcane, maize, cotton, yeah, just grow around certain bunds, boundaries, या unoccupied regions. ठीक है, ये frequently grow होता है. Now it has thorn. From the very beginning, बच्चा जो होता है, जो child है, it consists of thorn, it consists of flower, it consists of bud hair. Okay. Now ये generally इसकी seed जो attach होती है, that is attached with a hair, and it is very very light. बहुत light होता है, बहुत दूर तक जा सकता है, maybe up to kilometers during a strong wind. जब ये किलोमीटर तक जाएगा तो it will likely to become very perennial. So it will rapidly spread, especially in summer time period. When plant is completely dry, there are certain strong wind, loo, etc. are frequent in north central region, या northwestern region. Then, in such strong wind, it can move, float for very long distance. Suppose that कि अगर एक field में grow हो रहा है, तो entire area will be affected. Further, it grow from its root. Suppose that farmer सोचता है कि उसने एक नमी वाली सॉइल में, जो थोड़ा ह्यूमिड सॉइल है, उसमें उसको एक्सट्रैक्ट कर दिया बाय वियरिंग ग्लव्स, क्योंकि वैसे आप टच नहीं कर पाओगे, अगर टच करोगे तो हर्ट हो जाओगे. आपने एक ग्लव्स पहना बड़ा वाला और इसको पुल कर दिया. नाउ यू हैव पुल्ड इट, यू थिंक दैट एंटायर रूट हैज बीन रिमूव्ड. नो, इट इज रॉन्ग. मे बी अप टू 50% ऑफ इट्स रूट, फाइन रूट्स, likely to be still remain in the soil, and these fine roots have lot of bud, and each buds can provide या generate at least one plant. एक plant की वहाँ से हर plant की उत्पत्ति होगी. In that way it become very perennial. It is very difficult to remove it. अगर cut कर दोगे तो system क्या है? Root. Vegetative means of propagation क्या है? Root. ठीक है. Further, it can also grow from the seed. Seed जो है छोटा सा अटैच होता है और इसके ऊपर लॉन्ग हेयर होता है, वो फ्लोट कर जाता है इन द एयर फॉर वेरी लॉन्ग डिस्टेंस. ठीक है. सो वे ऑफ प्रोपगेशन. नाउ यू हैव नोटिस द बाइंड वीड. बाइंड वीड आपने देखा होगा, सुना होगा, या फ्रीक्वेंटली वीट के फील्ड में इट इज़ वेरी कॉमनली ऑब्जर्व्ड या नोटिस. वीट फील्ड में काफ़ी कुछ ऑब्जर्व होता है या नोटिस होता है. तो यहाँ पर देखो आप, दिस एंटायर रीजन ऑफ वीट फील्ड इज कवर्ड बाय दिस हिरनखुरी या बाइंड वीड. इफ वीट प्लांट इज ग्रोइंग लाइक दिस, या अदर प्लांट कोई भी इस तरह से ग्रो कर रहा है, इट जनरली मेक राउंड सर्किल एंड एंटायरली कवर्ड दिस प्लांट. पूरी तरह से जकड़ लेता है. इट इज लाइक दैट वी हैव फिक्स द प्लांट विद द रोप. ये एक अपनी रोप बनाता है, एंड दीज रोप आर नॉट वेरी सॉफ्ट, दीज आर नॉट वेरी लूज टू रिमूव, These are not very weak so that you can segregate one plant to another plant. Sometimes entire spike likely to be dismantled when farmer started to stretch या move away या do harvesting. Further harvesting में इसकी वजह से maintenance cost high आता है, equipments कई बार टूट जाता है, labor को time बहुत ज़्यादा consume होता है and it create lot of problem. मतलब एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या है. Further it may reduce maybe up to 40, 50, 70% of wheat production. Wheat production जो है वो काफ़ी हद तक बहुत लार्ज क्वांटिटी में घट सकता है इससे. यू नोटिस कि एंटायर वीट को कंप्लीटली डोमिनेट कर दिया है, पूरी तरह से बेड़ियों में जकड़ लिया है, लाइक दिस. ओके, नाउ मूविंग टूवर्ड्स फलारिस माइनर. एक वीट की प्रॉपर्टी मींस वीट का एक वीड है फलारिस माइनर. इसको गेहूं का मामा बोला जाता है या इसको गुल्ली डंडा बोला जाता है. नाउ दिस वीट का मामा generally looks like wheat. It has very similar physiology. बिल्कुल गेहूं की तरह दिखता है. Now, in the very beginning, farmers are unable to identify it. Probably, जो एक highly skillful person है, जिसके पास अच्छी knowledge है, practical experience है, वही इसको रिमूव कर सकता है. अदर फार्मर्स मे नॉट एबल टू इवन आइडेंटिफाई इट. अभी आइडेंटिफाई कब होगा? इट विल आइडेंटिफाई इट वंस इट बिकम मैच्योर. तो इसकी स्पाइक जब ग्रो होगा तो यू विल नोटिस डिफरेंस बिटवीन व्हीट स्पाइक ऑफ फलारिस माइनर. फलारिस माइनर को आइडेंटिफाई करने के लिए या रिमूव करने के लिए, इस खरपतवार को रिमूव करने के लिए आपको क्या करना होगा? लुक एट लीव्स. इसका जो लीव होगा वो काफी डार्क ग्रीन होगा और इसका जो लीव होगा प्रोबेबली लाइट ग्रीन होगा. व्हीट का जो लीव होगा वो लाइट ग्रीन होगा, नॉट वेरी डार्क ग्रीन. नंबर 1. नंबर 2, लाइग्यूल. इसका जो लाइग्यूल होगा, दिस इज योर लाइग्यूल. व्हाट इज लाइग्यूल? इट इज वाइट पेपरी लेयर. एक वाइट पेपरी लेयर है. इट इज 3x. 2 लाइग्यूल ऑफ व्हीट, ये 1x है, ये 3x है. इट इज 3x. नो, you would have wondered why this ligule existed here. इसका क्या काम है? Ligule is very helpful, especially to prevent infection in the plant. Helpful, especially to keep plant healthy. When there is a rainfall, then what happens between your blade of the leaf? ये leaf का blade है. This is sheath of leaf. Sheath of leaf और blade के बीच में एक ये वाइट पेपरी लेयर होती है जिसको हम लाइग्यूल बोलते हैं. तो जब रेनफॉल होगा तो प्रोबेबली ये प्रोटेक्शन प्रोवाइड करेगा. वाटर विल नॉट स्टोर हेयर बिकॉज देयर इज नॉट सफिशिएंट स्पेस. फर्दर, इफ वाटर विल नॉट बी स्टोर्ड हेयर, ह्यूमिडिटी मे नॉट बी क्रिएटेड हेयर. फर्दर, इट विल लाइकली टू बी प्रिवेंट फंगस अटैक. तो शायद फंगस अटैक नहीं करेगा यहाँ पर, अदरवाइज फंगस रिलेटेड प्रॉब्लम्स लाइकली टू बी वेरी फ्रीक्वेंट. ओके, एक तो फंगस इसको अटैक नहीं करेगा. दूसरा, डस्ट पार्टिकल्स. नो डस्ट पार्टिकल्स. डस्ट पार्टिकल्स नहीं आएगा बिकॉज यू हैव प्रोटेक्टिव लेयर हेयर. एंड पैथोजेंस अटैक नहीं करेगा. जनरली प्रिवेंट डिजीजेस. बैक्टीरिया वगैरह के लिए, उनकी ग्रोथ के लिए यहां पर ज्यादा स्कोप नहीं होता है. So, Mimurci is the property of weed, which looks like very similar. Look, Phalaris minor ये वाला जो है पूरी तरह similar है with wheat plant. So I hope you understood weed Do not think about weed that weed are always very problematic. Generally, most of the medicines, health benefits, we are receiving from the weed. Some of the weeds are excellently working as a fodder. These weeds also provide biodiversity, maintain health of the ecosystem. Weeds are very much natural plant. Some of the weeds might be very toxic. When you touch, then you come in influence of certain chemicals, then you may realize certain red rashes, allergy around your skin. Certain weeds have thorn, certain weeds have different kind of defensive mechanism so that they can prevent themselves from animal, human, or their enemy attack. Further, we have noticed that there are several problems associated with the weed. Weeds generally may cause huge deficiency in the overall yield. Weed generally led to direct competency. They compete for the light, for the air, water, minerals. They compete, and for the space. So that's why your crop may not achieve good yield. तो yield में तो loss होता ही होता है. They may also become host for certain pathogens या certain pest when there is harvesting of crop. So pests generally move inside these weeds या surrounding grasses, surrounding trees which are growing around your bund, around boundaries areas. Then they generally take shelter over there. They also consume certain foods over there, find some food over there. So generally weed also work for continuous of pest, continuing shelter for the pest, certain pathogens. To remove the problem of weed, you need to understand nature of the weed properly. You need to use a specific weedicide, herbicide. You can also follow certain traditional cultural methods, some smart agriculture practices to remove the problem of weed. If we target zero weed, practically it is not feasible, yet you can minimize weed. Seed certification companies also allow weed up to 2%. अगर आप अपनी weed को, अपनी seed को certify कराना चाहते हैं, तो उसके लिए भी generally government authorized companies, they certify your seed if it has up to 2%. Beyond 2%, it will reject. Further, weed may cause economic loss. Weed may cause reduction in the market value, quality, quantity, size, poor color structure. So overall, it is loss. You can manage weed with more sustainable practices. So that's all in today's lecture. Further, we will bring more. So stay. You can like, share, comment. That will help or motivate other student as well as the service provider who are providing educational services. So thank you very much with us. Now